Welcome back to the Pay and Game YouTube channel. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, this Friday, it's Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. We're going to be live for the big fight. It's probably going to be on True Geordie or the Pay and Game, whichever one. I'll be live, right? The lads will be around the table. We will be drunk. We'll be screaming as punches, bombs are thrown and landed. Be there with us. We'll see you there. Now, onto today's video, because up till now, I've always defended Jake Paul's boxing decisions because I've seen him come from a kid who really didn't know how to box at all to someone who can knock out UFC fighters. And I always seen logic in the path he took, you know, all the way to Tommy Fury, all right? It all makes sense. And even when people have been criticizing him, I have been defending him on this channel. So no one can say I haven't, you know, give him the benefit of the doubt, because I certainly have. But I'm sort of out of ideas. I've got to be honest. That fight this weekend was trash, and there ain't no other way to cut it. And as a fight fan, occasionally there'll be an odd bad performance or an odd bad opponent, and you can sort of excuse it. But the last two fights, and particularly this one, you're just sort of thinking, what am I watching here, really? I don't feel good about this. This guy looks like Bill Burr, for fuck's sake. He doesn't look like a boxer. Bill Burr would have probably done a better job in there. He's pretty mean. Sorry, Bill, you're actually way more handsome, in case you see this. I love your comedy. Like, I wasn't expecting much. It was a low bar in my mind already, but somehow it still managed to plummet way below that. It felt like a guy off the street had just been dragged in. Like, as fans, we want to be able to invest in a fighter's career, and in order to do that, we have to understand the path they're taking it and why they are fighting who they are fighting. And I honestly haven't got a fucking clue what the point of that was. And I know some people will be theorizing, this is what pro boxers do. You fight lesser guys, you pad your record. Why do you do that? You do that because you haven't got a big name and you need to build yourself off of these guys by having those spectacular knockouts. Jake Paul's already got a big name. He actually doesn't even need to do all this shit. He actually just needs to get better as a boxer. And if there's one thing that won't help him do, it's get any better at all. You will learn fuck all from that fight. If anything, it'll actually give you bad habits, because the guy is such an unthreatening fighter in there. He's offering nothing back. You're going to not respect him, and you're going to do things that if you did them against a Tommy Fury, they'd get you fucked up. So it's actually making you worse potentially by taking that. And I guess Jake Paul fans or Jake Paul himself can argue, like, look, on paper, the last two opponents should have been decent, you know, challenges for Jake Paul. They've had a decent record. They've won quite a lot. They hardly lost very many. Therefore, yeah, good opponents. But like, if you watch them, which I'm pretty sure someone from Jake Paul's team did before they said, yes, we'll fight him, you know they're fucking sitting ducks. And not even just that, they were both naturally smaller guys than Jake Paul. I think the last guy had fought like between a 170, 185. Jake Paul's fighting a 199, so he's got the size advantage on him. And the last two of them, I wrote this down, Andre August had one fight since 2019, and Ryan Bourland had one fight since 2018. So they're not even active. One fight in a 5 or 6 years, the pair of them. And look, you absolutely don't take fights like that if you're looking to be tested, do you? We can now acknowledge, in no way, shape or form was this ever supposed to be a test. I get maybe there's some confidence building going on after the Nate Diaz fight didn't really go how they wanted it to, and the Tommy Fury fight obviously was a loss. This is just a waste of fucking time, this. And the sad thing is Jake is supposed to be getting better and better, and therefore increasing his competition to be better and better, so that he constantly is in a state of learning, improving, and therefore, as he claims, one day ready to fight for a world title. The reality is we're going backwards here, and some people might not want to say this, but the Emperor has no clothes on. I think this is the worst opponent we've seen since Ben Askren. Like, Tyron Woodley was absolutely way more of a threat than this guy. And I get it's not a pay-per-view, right? So you're not wanting to put yourself in a situation where you're likely to get beat or you don't know if you're really going to win this. But this is just, the bar is so fucking low, man. I don't want to be watching a fight feeling sorry for a guy in there. And I don't think any Jake Paul fan even would want that. Like, you want to feel like there's at least a guy in there who can fucking defend himself to the basics. It was embarrassing. It was actually embarrassing. And look, this might not be Jake Paul's fault. This might be part of his team or doing the matchmaking and deliberately setting him up with guys who he can fucking squash without any fucking trouble. And as I said before, I don't think Jake Paul is getting any better by fighting a guy like this. I think he's actually likely to get worse, because technically, when you're not worried about what's coming back to you, you will take more risks, more chances, develop more bad habits, and actually look worse. He looked more sloppy intensity in there than I've seen him in a long time. The amount of punches he missed in that fight was absurd. It wasn't as coordinated as it should have been. Again, because he's getting careless. What you want is to develop habits to train those brain patterns so that they are second to none, so that no matter who the fuck's in front of you, you react the same way all the time. And by going in there and just windmilling on this guy like it's a fucking pub fight, I don't know how that's teaching anyone anything good. Like, I'm not saying there weren't the odd good shot or anything, but it was a lot sloppier than I've seen Jake in a long time. And actually, there's a point where he's coming towards the guy against the ropes, because obviously he's turtling up for fucking dear life. And the guy throws this cheeky little shot out and catches Jake Paul right on the fucking chin. And you watch that and you think, if that guy's any fucking good, you're all of a sudden... The fight could have changed like that, mate. And that's exactly why you don't do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just... I don't understand it. And it's ironic because Jake Paul is now, I think, one spot below Vidal Riley in these cruiserweight rankings. I think in BoxRec, some one of those ones. Vidal Riley, not long ago, fought a guy called Anis Taj, right? I think he was a Scottish guy. Tall, big, cruiserweight, big lump, and hard as fucking nails, this kid, right? Not the technical ability of Vidal Riley, but got a granite chin on him and is going to make you fucking dig deep to get him out of there. You're going to have to pull from your power, your stamina, your technique. You're going to have to use all of your game to really get a guy like that out of there. And it's possible. If you're smart, you can do it. Those are the learning fights that Vidal Riley has taken, where it's a fucking solid test, but if you play everything the way you should, you will beat him. But my God, is it a fucking test. And that's Vidal Riley, who's, you know, on course to win a world title one day, hopefully. If Jake Paul's saying that that's what he wants to do as well, then that is the type of challenges you should be taking now. And if there's one thing I know Jake Paul is about, he doesn't like bullying and he doesn't like people, you know, being in unfair fights. We're getting close to that right now. Do you know what I mean? It's not looking fucking good, mate. You can't do that again, like. You know, we need a jump and then some. The interest in watching a Jake Paul fight has never been as low, ever, as it was on that night. Every single other fight has had way more interest than that, even the one before that. So Jake's next moves are going to be critical to the long-term success of his boxing career in terms of just bringing in pay-per-view and being the guy he wants to be, the face of boxing. As funny as that may be to some people, that's what his goal is, right? You've got a few choices. You either do a decent level boxer who people are actually going to take seriously, or an MMA guy. Someone we've got to have an idea of, if this happens, this is roughly where we can figure out Jake's level. Because the Nate Diaz fight planted a lot of doubt. When you get in there with nearly a 40-year-old beaten up MMA fighter and you don't get him out of there for 10 rounds, as much as it's good to go 10 rounds, I do give credit for that, it left a lot of doubt in people's minds. That so you could do an MMA guy and like a Masvidal, that would have interest for sure. You've got the Tommy Fury fight, which I don't think people are really desperate for, but I think they'd be more interested in that than a lot of fights. So that's up there. And then obviously it's the KSI fight. If I'm Jake right now, I am more wanting the KSI fight than ever. He's been training so consistently. KSI has come back into it. There's a real opportunity now to make that fight. But ultimately, for interest purposes, Jake needs KSI more than he ever has, in my opinion. And if he can then go in there and put a great performance on against KSI, well, then he's back on top of the world again and everyone's fucking interested again. But right now, I think they need to think about what they're doing, because none of this makes sense to me right now, what I'm saying. Anyway, like I said, don't forget to like the video. It does make a difference. I do appreciate all the support on the Pain Game YouTube channel. We're nearly at 500k. If you can subscribe, please do so. And don't forget, this Friday, Francis Ngannou may shock the world against Anthony Joshua, and we will be live for it, getting pissed up. So make sure you check that out. I'll see you on the next one.